Hi, I'm Dr. Megan McNamara Monday, and today I'm going to be talking with you how to deal with some anxiety triggers. So I'm filming this video early in the morning, and I just got back from the dentist office. Ching! The dentist is a really big trigger a lot of times, especially if you've had trauma. If you think of the parallel there, it can be painful, especially if you're having some dental work done. You're kind of helpless, powerless in the moment. It's easy to avoid, but the problem with any kind of anxiety trigger is the more you avoid it, the more difficult it is to finally show up and do the thing. So, for example, if you have a small issue going on, but then you dodge the dentist for a few years, you may end up with like a root canal or a tooth pull or something like that, where if you had been proactive about it, it would have been a much more minor procedure. I'm also about to leave for the Energy Psychology Conference in New Mexico, and so I'm getting on a plane for the first time in about, I'd say over 10 years, and so I'm not one who has a lot of anxiety about planes, but it's just one of those things that does kind of perk a little bit of anxiety. For a while there, my partner was getting their pilot's license, and it was just one of those things I couldn't really think about every time he went up in the plane. So there is something to be said for denial, or in DBT they call it like pushing away negative thoughts. But then there's also something to be said for facing something head on. So I'm just giving you some examples of what could be common anxiety triggers: getting on a plane, going to a doctor's appointment, getting maybe a shot, even kind of mundane stuff like hanging out with people, taking a test, mailing a letter, taxes, those kind of things, right? So here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to give you some simple strategies for how to deal with these kind of anxiety triggers. So in DBT, we would always say avoid avoiding. So avoidance always makes anxiety worse. It gives you kind of that relief from anxiety, but it perpetuates whatever the condition is. So that's where a lot of people get into trouble with substance use, is that it's a way of numbing, it's a way of avoiding. And so it provides that temporary relief, but you never really deal with what it is that you need to deal with. So we want to take that avoidance, which we're good at. Sometimes it's hard to give up things that you're good at, right? So if you're good at procrastinating, if you're good at avoiding, take that same energy, but avoid avoiding. So put it towards the avoidance. I think really a lot of times anxiety feeds off the anticipation. So for example, all the time my clients will say that they get a lot of social anxiety around going out to meet people or do something fun, but then when they actually do make themselves go, they do really enjoy it. So that's a skill called opposite action. This is a DBT skill, and basically what it means is if your depression or anxiety is controlling you in some way, you want to do the opposite of what it's telling you. So a lot of times, say you're depressed and it's difficult to get out of bed, and there's this voice in your head that says, oh, I can't do it, don't get out of bed, don't go to this thing. That's avoidance, right? And it's also depression. It might also be anxiety. And so it might sound like your voice inside of your head, right? But really labeling it as a symptom rather than genuinely who you are or what you want. So what you want to do is recognize that that voice is holding you back, and then do the opposite of what it's telling you. Same thing with any self-destructive behavior. If you're feeling the urge or craving to do something that's negative for you, you can kind of apply some mindfulness to it and do what's called urge surfing. So if I'm feeling the urge to go spend some money that I don't have, or that I would use wisely in another place, I might just notice, okay, I feel really drawn to do that. What's going on with me? How am I feeling? What would it be like just to notice the sensation but not act on it? It's kind of a similar thing to like if you've ever done a meditation. As soon as you sit down to meditate, the mind kind of revolts, right? And so all of a sudden you might feel, gosh, I got this itch and I just got to scratch it. What's it like to just be aware of the itch but not scratch it? And so that's where we kind of develop the attentional control, and we get to decide what we really want to do moving forward. So we've got opposite action, we've got avoid avoiding, so it's kind of similar to opposite action. We've got ride the wave. So I've done some other videos on ride the wave, and ride the wave is a survival skill. So when you don't think you're being skillful at all, as long as you've literally made it through that situation, you've been riding the wave. And so riding the wave is just giving yourself credit that you're going through a tough thing, bringing some compassion and awareness, and kind of congratulations that you survived. So particularly if you're going through a crisis moment, just surviving that is a big accomplishment. And so that is a ride the wave moment. Generally, ride the wave and opposite action go hand in hand. So for example, this morning, if I'm going to the dentist and I'm really nervous, I'm sitting in the chair and they lean me back and they tell me to turn my head and they're hurting me. What am I doing? I might want to run out of the room, right? So I'm doing opposite action by laying there, and I'm riding the wave by maybe deep breathing, by telling myself it's temporary, that it'll be over soon. Maybe, thinking about the reward I'm going to get after I'm done, thinking about how nice and white my teeth will be afterwards, and so kind of doing what we call turn the mind. What are the benefits of the situation? How can I do mood repair and kind of manage my anxiety? It's kind of an interesting phenomenon. I'm not really a fan of the Fitbits or Apple Watches because I feel like we have enough exposure to electronics and to have something on your skin. I've heard that it can kind of increase anxiety, but it's interesting because a lot of people do wear those as common practice, and they can tell when their blood pressure or their heart rate goes up. And so it's kind of interesting. My people with panic attacks tell me that they can monitor how high those measures get, and they get into some really intense levels. So a lot of times panic attacks are first diagnosed in the ER because people literally think that they're dying or having a heart attack. It's literally that intense. And so anxiety is no joke. So if you struggle with anxiety, give yourself a big pat on the back. And I think, no one's immune to anxiety because I think life can be just very tough and anxiety provoking from time to time. But to have chronic anxiety, the struggle is real, y'all. It really does make everything so much harder. So when we are feeling anxious, what we want to do next is do some self-soothing. So one of the great things to do is breathing. A lot of times I'll have teens come in and they'll say, oh yeah, I had a therapist and all they wanted me to do was deep breathe. Yeah, right, like that's gonna work. Well, actually it does work. I know it's kind of hokey and we like things to be complicated and we don't think it's as easy as breathing, but we couldn't live without breathing. So breathing is a pretty important practice, and they actually do think that panic attacks are based in not getting enough oxygen to the brain. So it literally is the physiological cause of panic. So one of the things that we would do in DBT IOP at the middle path would be square breathing. So I'm going to teach you a little bit of square breathing, and I think that's how we'll end this video. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically breathe in, we're going to hold, we're going to breathe out, and then we're going to hold. And that's going to make like a little square there, and it's going to regulate our breathing. It's going to give us a sense of relaxation. If you want to, you can kind of hold the exhale a little bit longer, and that's kind of like, taking a sigh of relief. We just do that naturally, and that sends a message to the body that we're safe and we're okay. So if you want to add a little flair on the end, that can help as well. So let's try. We're going to breathe in. We're going to hold. We're going to breathe out. We're going to hold. We're going to breathe in. We're going to hold. We're going to breathe out. We're going to hold. We're going to breathe in. We're going to hold. We're going to breathe out. We're going to hold. One more time. Breathe in. We're going to hold. We're going to breathe out. We're going to hold. All right, so I hope you found this video helpful. Just remember to take a deep breath, remember to turn the mind, remember to give yourself credit for riding the wave, and remember to challenge yourself with opposite action. So if you'd like to book a session with me or just kind of enjoy some of my blogs, videos, tidbits, please subscribe at rightonbrain.com. Thank you. Have a good day.